Today, I'm joined by someone I've been lucky enough to call a friend for a while now, and that's Michelle Walker from Katz Recruitment. And Michelle has spent more than 20 years in recruitment, and she's the founder of Katz Recruitment, where she helps businesses across Australia find exceptional people. But today's conversation isn't just about recruitment. We're going to get into why some people can sell themselves and build relationships without even thinking about it. And why others like me have always found it hard, putting myself out there. And Michelle's built her business from the ground up and makes it look effortless. She's passionate about connecting people, creating opportunities, and helping others succeed. And I wanted to properly understand what made that possible for her. And I'm really excited about this chat because I know there'll be plenty of practical advice and a few laughs. I mean, we're two redheads here, two fiery
Woohoo!
redheads here. And hopefully we'll have a bit of inspiration that we can help people that are going through some of these situations as well. And also, I wanted to have this chat because, as I said before, selling myself has never come naturally to me. And I know I'm not the only one out there that feels that. So I wanted to get into what's the why underneath that? Because you know me, guys, it's all about self-authority, self-discovery. And believe me, I think we're going to find that it's not always what we think. So welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much for coming and joining us at Stepping Into Me.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great. It's good. And I have to say, one thing that I have always admired about you is you're confident and you're brave. You're such an empowered woman. And when it comes to putting yourself out there, you have this real ability to connect authentically to large audiences. And that is real talent. And when I think about it, I'm guessing that a lot of those skills could be contributed to the life experience that you've had, which is where I want to explore today. So I suppose where I would like to start, if it's okay with you,
Yes, go for it. Go for it.
is what did 20 years working in recruitment and then building Katz Recruitment, what did that actually teach you about selling yourself and your business?
I guess, I've thought about this for a little while, and I think it just all comes back to that nobody else is going to do it for me. So I just have to get it done. I have to pick up the call, have the conversations, have the difficult conversations. And, I know that, I'm the one that needs to make the magic happen. Uh, and, um, and so I just throw myself into it. I just, come up with solutions you know, uh, and it all starts from a conversation. You've just got to pick up the phone or walk up to somebody and talk to them and get to know them. And, when, perhaps maybe something doesn't go right, you have to come up with a plan and you have to, pull up those big girl pants and, get on with it, get on with the show, do what you need to do to get it done.
Yeah, yeah. And tell me, was it always like natural for you, or was there kind of a point where you had to sort of
Mm.
learn it?
Well, I guess I'm not too sure if you know, but obviously my parents, both worked in small business.
Mm.
So I kind of, grew up with that. I grew up, seeing my dad, serve customers, talk to people, build relationships. And, I guess, for him, it was also a very similar situation.
Mm.
Nobody else was going to provide for his family. It was going to be him. And my dad actually had a stutter. So I
Yeah,
don't know if many people know, but he had a stutter, and
yeah.
he didn't let that get in the way. Like obviously, he had to get a job that was a little bit more face to face because
Mm.
that allowed him to be able to express other elements of his personality to connect with people.
Yeah.
But that never even stopped him. If he had to make a call, he would pick up the call. He would organize, deals and get things happening. He had this really lovely manner about him, which I hope that's I've obviously taken on. Um,
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess going back to the question, I think the question was where did it all sort of start, or where it all came from?
Yeah, if it was natural, I suppose being in recruitment too, right? I mean, that's part of the job is you have to actually go out and get the candidates and bring them in. And it's, a
Yeah,
lot of it
yeah.
would be cold calling too, wouldn't it be reaching out to people?
Well, I was really lucky. Like when I first started my career in recruitment, I was actually able to start from the very bottom. So I was working in a resourcing role, which
Mm,
sometimes, made me go out and do cover reception. So,
mm,
we would have hundreds of calls coming in, taking messages, making sure we got all the phone numbers right. Like, you couldn't
mm,
be afraid to double check the spelling of a name. Like, you just had to do the double checking. And I
mm,
guess that actually forced me because I knew
mm,
how important it was to get the right information.
yeah,
And then when I went into a resourcing role, it was supporting the recruitment consultants. So I could actually see what they were doing, how different people dealt with different scenarios. And it
yeah.
was actually a really, really good, I guess, learning foundation for me.
Mm,
And then, when I went into my first recruitment role, I got my first recruitment role, full 360 role. So, a 360 role means that you're doing everything. You're doing the candidates, you're doing the sales all together. And it was also a generalist role. So, it
okay.
was any sort of role you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
It could be accounting, it could be engineering, it could be sales. So, it was amazing foundations because, you had to sound
Mm,
like you knew what you were talking about when it came to every single role that you were working on.
yeah.
And you had to pick up the calls, you had to find people. We also did a
Mm,
lot of assessment centers. So
mm,
we needed to get people's buy-ins. We sometimes had to have, 20 people start on Monday. So you had
yeah.
to confirm, double check, make sure that they were all ready, that they've provided all their paperwork and all that sort of stuff.
Mm,
But then I do remember when, obviously I went into my first role where I had to do full sales,
mm,
still 360, but it was more sales orientated.
yeah.
I just had to pick up the call and build those relationships with customers,
Yeah.
book to go out and meet with them, find out more about their business, what they liked, what they didn't like. And once you have that information, that also builds your confidence as well. And the
Mm,
more you do it, the better you get. I
yeah.
remember one of my friends who did some coaching with me, he said to me, Michelle, if you do something 10,000 times, you're not going to be afraid to do it. And I think probably I think it's over 20 years now, I've probably done it over 10,000 times. And, it just comes naturally.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's really interesting because it's a real skill that you've learnt as well in that space as well. Because when I think about from my past experience and my career, I spent 25 years being headhunted and moving from contract to contract. Like I could probably name on my hand the actual amount of interviews that I went for because there was always another contract lined up, and
That's amazing.
it was one thing after the other. So, and because I was in that project space and I was there solving problems and all of that sort of stuff. I wasn't really in that marketing or sales, and I didn't really have any exposure to that. So when I was thinking about it the other night, it was like, well, I kind of went to work. It was my business, but it was a contract, when I do one contract after the other. And it was a set deliverables and there were set pricing, set all this sort of stuff. I didn't have to chase anybody. I didn't have to sell myself. People knew who I were in the industry. It was all reputational, and there was always income coming in. So when you sort of step out of that space into the place where you're like doing it all for yourself, it becomes very different because all of these things become very alien and unusual. Like for me, I just cringe sometimes because the thought of me putting myself out there, at first it was worse. I'm getting better now. Obviously, with my YouTube channel, I have to do it now. And this is one of the reasons I got this channel. But I think too, it was just like, why do I have to sell myself? Why do I have to prove myself? That's what it felt like, that I had to prove myself to be visible. But it is a very different, they're different skills too. And I think it makes makes a difference when we learn those skills? Because for me, it's not about so much lacking the confidence to do it. It's the driver and the skills behind of how do I do it, if that makes sense.
Yes, definitely. Well, you
Yeah.
actually just reminded me because I do remember when I was at uni, I had a few different casual jobs that I was doing,
Yeah.
and one of the roles that I was doing was actually working in a telemarketing sort of, call center.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And, when I first landed that role, I was like, holy moly, like I've never done anything like this before. How am I going to do this?
Yeah.
But I decided to create a script for myself. So I
Mm.
actually created a script, and initially I followed it. And then obviously you have to adjust and adapt, depending on who you're
Yeah.
talking to. And then eventually I didn't even need the script because I knew
Yeah.
what I was talking about. So I
Yeah.
think once you know your topic, which obviously you know your topic
Mm.
very well, I
Yeah.
think the more you do it, and it's also just setting yourself up, putting those scripts together, creating the
Mm.
templates, and just, the thing is, I mean, when you're calling someone or when you're talking to someone, they're not going to know that you made a mistake in your
Yeah.
script
Yeah.
or what you're
Yeah.
saying. So, you can turn it around and make it your own. So
Yeah.
it's just being, I guess, comfortable
Mm.
in what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And practice makes perfect. The more
Yeah.
you do it, the better you get.
Mm.
Um, and, something that I've always sort of, told my team and stuff like that is
Mm.
just do it. Just
Just
do
do
it.
it.
Like
Yeah.
close your eyes, whatever you have to do, just pick up the phone, just do it.
Yeah, I've done that a bit this year too, like I've pushed my boundaries right out to the edge this year with
That's
um,
amazing. That's
you
so
know,
good.
the
And that's
magazine and
personal
yeah,
growth,
yeah,
right? You know?
exactly. Yeah, and
It
just
makes it
being brave.
interesting because if
Yeah,
we knew
that's right.
everything, how
Yeah,
boring would life be? So we need to have those
exactly.
challenges to push us.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you must have seen in your recruitment work, where you've had people that have come in that have had these uh, amazing skills and ability, but they can't sell themselves.
Well, yeah, I mean, working in some of the biggest recruitment agencies that I've worked in, we did have situations where people would come in. Sometimes they wouldn't realize what's involved and they'd leave after a few days because it was just
Yeah,
such a big shock to their system.
yeah,
Because obviously, it is a very high pressure, very quick turnaround sort of, environment.
yeah,
But some people, they stay for a little while and they leave. I'm one of those people that we call a career recruiter, which is quite rare in our industry because it's not always an industry where people stay due to the high stress of
yeah,
the role.
yeah,
Um, I guess over the years, I've sort of learned to sort of deal with that. And, working with people, they're the most hardest product that you can sell in the world.
absolutely.
People change their minds, they get counter offered.
Mm.
Sometimes they change their mind and they won't let you know and they ghost you. So you've just got to,
Yeah,
put a smile on your face and just keep going. You just have
yeah,
to keep going,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is really hard because
yeah,
I do genuinely care about the people that I work with, both my candidates and my clients.
yeah,
So I hate delivering bad news, but
yeah,
I try to come to them with solutions.
yeah,
And with candidates, when we do help them through the process, we genuinely try to help them. We help them
yeah,
prepare, we help them making sure that they have all the right information, that they're absolutely ready to go. So all they have to do is do a bit of practice themselves and they're pretty much in a good position.
yeah,
And so, yeah, I guess it is quite upsetting, when, people don't get back to you and things like that.
yeah,
But again, we're dealing with humans and we all tick a little bit differently. So we've just got to deal with what we're dealt with.
yeah. And tell me, you're talking about, doing the prep for interviews and prepping someone for an interview. What would you sort of say to someone that, isn't very good at advocating for themselves out loud? How would you sort of prep them in that space?
Well, I guess when you're preparing for an interview, it's very important to have a look at the job description and have a look what the requirements are. Obviously, making sure that you've got the right, qualifications and things like
Mm,
that. But what the interviewers want is they want to hear about your experiences where you've dealt in similar
mm,
situations to theirs. So I always tell people to look at those behavioral based interview questions and prepare real life examples. Don't just skim over it, but
mm,
sit down and have a think about your career, where you've dealt with these situations and where those moments have arisen. And they're always a challenge. There's always some
mm,
sort of challenge, some sort of drama. You have an
mm,
angry customer.
mm,
Things don't go right because,
mm,
again, we're all, dealing with people working with people. So you just never know. What Forrest Gump says, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
yeah,
And that happens
yeah,
in all elements of life, I
yeah,
believe. So it's just really important to prepare those
mm,
examples, and
mm,
know what your strengths are, and
mm,
obviously make sure that the role that you're applying for, that the role that you're interviewing for is actually what you want,
mm, yeah,
because otherwise you're just wasting everybody's time, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
and sometimes people will try to apply for roles because they can't maybe get something else.
yeah, yeah. That
But I
settling.
believe
Mm,
that if you really focus on what you want and you network and you find the right people that can help you in those sort of roles, you can
mm,
get what you want.
mm,
I really believe that there's no point going down, a different road if it's not really what you want.
yeah,
Unless it's
definitely.
strategic and there is some sort of, plan that can lead from there, of course.
Yeah,
But even the role that you're applying for, it has to be something that you like and enjoy because, as I say, you're going to work, if you like what you're doing, it's
yeah,
not like working. So you're going to naturally do well
yeah,
and apply
definitely.
yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, I work in that space too, as you know, with clients. It's important to know who you are. It's important to know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and that sort of thing. I think what I see a lot too is where people struggle to articulate that, and that's a real skill in itself. To be able to say, "This is who I am. This is how I show up." Um, and I think it's a skill that can be learnt as well. Do you think so?
100%. So we tell our candidates to actually get a friend or a partner or somebody to sit down with them and do a proper practice interview with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when you practice, the person who's interviewing could say, "Hey, Lyndall, you could actually say it this way. It's the same thing, what you were trying to get across, but it just sounds a little bit better." So
Mm,
the more you practice it, the better you get. If you don't have
mm,
somebody you can do that with, you can record yourself on your phone
mm,
or you can do it in front of a mirror.
mm,
And it's really funny because, well, I don't know if it's funny, but it's interesting that people who actually do that work in the preparing,
mm,
they're very, it's very unlikely that they won't do well in an interview and that they won't be successful.
yeah.
Usually I can tell the people who've done the prep work because the
Mm,
customers will come back, within half an hour of the interview saying, "Look, we want them now."
yeah.
So, and it pays off. If you do the
Yeah.
work, it pays off.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, that's really interesting too. So tell me, if you were, if you had someone here that's watching this that is starting their own business, that is a little bit shy, maybe they've come from the background like I have, where they haven't really had any exposure to putting themselves out there, and they kind of don't know where to start. They don't know, what to do in that space. What would you sort of give them what would your advice be in that space?
So I think, when you first start a business, you wear so many different hats.
Yeah.
Your marketing, your sales, your accounting, you're the
Mm.
coordinator,
Yeah, IT,
problem solver,
everything.
everything,
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, true.
So it's really important for people to understand that it is going to be busy. You are going to be dragged into a lot of different directions,
Yeah.
and that's something that you need to be prepared. to be comfortable with. And sometimes it's okay to be uncomfortable, but if you're comfortable
Yeah.
knowing that this is happening and that's what you're getting yourself into, the uncomfortable situations, they just make you grow. Like I think I'm about to on the 23rd of July we'll be celebrating our 8th year birthday, which is quite
Oh,
exciting.
congratulations.
And I think I've grown so much like in the last eight
Mhm.
years, and I haven't always been this super confident. Like
Yeah.
I I don't know if I'm an extrovert or an introvert, but I think you can mold yourself and you can change
Mm.
and adapt to different situations.
Yeah.
So I think, you need to first of all figure out who your target market is, get a list of those customers that you want to target, and get on the phone and start introducing yourself. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a sales call straight away. It could be
Yeah.
just an introduction. Hi, it's Michelle Walker from Katz Recruitment. We deal with similar businesses to yours. These are the
Mhm.
sort of roles we do. Could you tell me a little bit about your business? To be honest, most of the time people are really busy, so they're not going to spend a lot of time with you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you could try and see if you can organize a time for a coffee or a catch up.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you'll have to call them a few times to get that meeting.
Yeah.
But I always recommend after you speak to somebody, send them an email. Maybe create like a capability statement. Actually,
Hmm.
create a script of what you're going to say when you're calling on the
Yeah.
introduction call. Maybe have a few different scenarios
Yeah. It's a
of,
good idea.
organizing a meeting or just a call,
Yeah.
or, if you're focusing on a certain area that you're wanting to grow your business in. So just make sure you've got that. Have
Mhm.
a capability statement, something that after you speak to somebody, you can actually send something to them, because
Yeah.
there are so many recruiters that will, or salespeople who just make the call and go, oh, didn't get the sale, didn't get a meeting,
Yeah. But
next.
it's that
Uh,
follow through as
but you
well.
have
Yeah.
to follow through. You have
Mhm.
to send an email. Like I remember once I was, I love doing sales calls. So I was making sales calls and I actually surprised myself. I think this is another scenario, but I remember once I really needed to get some more jobs on. And I said, okay, I'm going to call 100 people. And then I called 10. And then I think after that, I don't know, maybe like half an hour had passed, and I had an email come through from one of the managers saying, oh, you've sent this email through to reception. We've got two roles that we'd like you to work on, but we have to warn you, they're very, very hard roles. We actually filled both those roles and some for that customer, and we still work with them. So,
Yeah.
it's just about, really creating a process.
Mhm.
And, there have been times, the original story that I was going to tell you, I remember sending out an email to a very well-known company, and 2 years later, they emailed saying, hey, we've got 3 jobs for you.
Two
So
years later,
yeah,
that's
so you just never
crazy.
know. You just never
Yeah.
know. So it's all about staying in touch
Mm.
and and then you've got the marketing things, making sure that you're emailing people, sending out maybe newsletters or something like that. You've got to come up with ways to be front of mind, and also so that people get to know your brand and they, learn to trust it and you build your credibility and things like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting because I think we've kind of got to the place now that we're both in agreement that it is a skill that you can learn. And it's not like, just because our history is a particular has taught us one thing, it doesn't define our ability or limit our capacity in any way. So it's just probably having those resources that we have around us. I'm lucky I have you because you love sales and I hate sales. So
We're the yin and
that
the yang.
that's right. That works wonderfully because I go, "Oh, I want to do it." But anyway, yeah, so that's brilliant. But thank you so much for today. I really do appreciate you. And I think if anything has shown us today is that, 20 years of training has shown, how Michelle is so fluent and flexible and comfortable in that space. This is listening to you talk, you don't find it terrifying. You're not, blinking and stuttering and sitting there going terrified. So it is something that you can learn, and it is something that people can get through step by step, right?
Actually, I've got two things that I wanted to add. So
Mm,
I think number one, always try to add value. And number
mm,
two, when you speak to somebody, try to leave them in a better off situation
yeah,
or with more information that they had than before they spoke to you. And
yeah,
that's something we try to do because obviously, working in recruitment, we can't help everybody that comes to us.
yeah,
So
yeah,
every time I have a conversation, my goal is to leave them in a better position than
yeah,
what they were than before they met me. And with all our clients and candidates, I try to just add as much value as I can because then
yeah,
you become the trusted partner and
yeah,
they won't go
definitely.
anywhere else.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we can all kind of live by that a little bit, can't we? Just to what are we actually giving back in that space? Because it becomes a bit, transactional, take in a lot of circumstances that when we interact with people. And I think if you can sit in that space and say, what am I showing up as? Who am I showing up as? And what can I give to this connection as well? It just adds another level of value too, doesn't it? Yeah.
And the most important thing, just do it.
Just do it. Just do it. So that sounds to me like a challenge to everyone who's watching is to just get out there and do it. I will do that too. I will go and do something salesy today just to
Woohoo!
make
Yay!
that challenge for you.
Nice.
But I will put your details in the description below for anyone
Thank
who
you.
wants to work with Michelle or Michelle, you also run the Hill Socialites as well.
Yes,
So
that's correct. Yes.
yeah, so if there's people out there in that area in the Hills District in Sydney, New South Wales that want to connect in with Michelle, she's an amazing human. And yeah, you will love meeting her. She's just as beautiful on screen as she is in
Oh,
person.
thank
So
you. Thank you
yeah.
so much. Thank you.
And also, if you related more to where I've come from in this space about, struggling with visibility and self-promotion, reach out to me. We can work through some self-discovery pathways. I'm not perfect at this stuff. We work through it together, but there's a lot that I can help in that space. So thank you so much, my dear. It's been an
Very
absolute pleasure as
exciting.
always. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much. All the best.
Okay.
See you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.